Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org.
This week on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke. Guest Victoria Moran from RiverBend Stroke Program at PeaceHealth Medical Center shares her story as a mother, daughter, and caregiver. She offers insight on the many ways love shows up throughout the recovery process. Thank you for joining us for Part 2, Victoria Moran's interview. Hello and welcome to Beyond Stillness. Stroke offers a powerful, life-changing shift in perspective. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. This radio show, Beyond Stillness, offers an hour of pause for storytelling and reflection. Ultimately, Beyond Stillness is a welcoming environment that reveres the moment beyond stroke's paralysis. Still moments unite humanity and divinity. I'm your host, Molly
Today's
Bucola.
guest is Victoria Moran from Eugene, Oregon. She's an artist, mother, wife, daughter, and works at PeaceHealth Sacred Heart Medical Center at RiverBend in Springfield, Oregon, for the RiverBend Stroke Program. Her mother suffered a stroke in 2010, and since then, she's devoted her whole professional life to the stroke community. Victoria facilitates the RiverBend Stroke Survivor and Caregiver support groups in the Eugene, Springfield area. Today's theme is Love Has Many Faces, and oh, does it. You have chosen to devote your professional life to the stroke community after experiencing this with your mom.
Yes.
And so when you started your talk, you talked about all these confusing things that were happening. Your talk described quite a few ways that confusion overpowered reality. And sometimes confusion feels like fog, and other times like an ungrounded swirl, or maybe both, who knows? And at what point in the first 24 hours did you feel like you started to get a foothold on what was actually going on?
I don't even think I got a foothold in the first 24 hours. I was so shocked when I saw Mom for the first time at the hospital, because physically she looked fine. It's when I walked into the room and she was hysterical and she couldn't communicate and she was saying potato. It was really confusing for me. And I just froze. Like I said, I just froze there. I just watched what was going on. I'm the kind of person that walks into a room and assesses what's going on before I make any decisions. And I could not even assess what was going on. I just simply, like I said, walked over to her. So the first 24 hours, I was in complete shock. That shock didn't stop me from being gentle, being kind, but it did stop me from understanding how to care for Mom. And so I realized I'm going to have to get over this shock and really move forward. And I think that's why I was so frustrated with the doctor, because I wasn't getting information. I was just getting thrown more stuff to shock me. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, the first 24 hours were rough. I think I was in shock for probably 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how does that inform your work with the Stroke Warrior community, the families and the stroke warriors themselves?
Yeah, I think I can empathize. And I can appreciate when folks say, I'm shocked, and it's been 2 months. Of course they're shocked. And oh, it's been 2 months. Sure. Grief and coming to the conclusion that your loved one has really suffered something that you may not be able to help them with is shocking. And I can just be there for them and go, yeah, it's shocking. And I'm so sorry you're going through this. And typically my first response when folks contact me, be it a stroke survivor or a caregiver, the first thing I say is, I'm sorry you're going through this. Because it is something they have to go through and walk through. And a lot of it is on your own, just because everyone's at different stages.
What do you feel like, what do you wish that someone would have said to you in that first, let's say, week? Someone who had gone through it before.
I wish someone had been there and said, you are stronger than you think. Your mom is stronger than she thinks. And your family, you're going to be fine. You're going to get through this. I wish there had been someone just to give me, just this reassurance that everything's going to be all right. I was saying it, but I wasn't believing it.
So hearing someone else say it would have helped you believe it?
I think so. Because at the time, I had no idea what a stroke was. I knew it was a brain attack. I knew it was bad, but I really thought it was for someone old, really old, like in their 80s and 90s. I didn't realize my mom was 62 at the time when she had her stroke. And I didn't know a 62-year-old woman could have a stroke. I really didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't an advocate yet. I didn't know all the things that I know now.
My stroke, I was 21, and it took them a while to figure out it was a stroke because they were thinking the same thing. I think that we have a lot of preconceived notions about what a stroke is and who it happens to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm thinking about your work today and how you connect with people in the hospital. Can you tell me about a person that you met when you were in the hospital, or maybe throughout the PT or OT process, with whom your mom connected or you connected, or someone that sticks in your mind as an inspiration?
Well, here's the sad reality. In 2010, in Medford, Oregon, there were 0 resources. So mom didn't receive any of the resources that she would receive today. I know now they're a primary stroke center. Where I work, it's a comprehensive. So it's better care today, years later. So mom did not receive OT or PT or any kind of therapies. I brought her home to her small town of Sutherland, 0 resources. And so I thought, well, Victoria, you're college educated. You better think of a plan. You've raised a kid. You've put her through school. You know some things that make the brain better. And my husband actually works for a company that makes the equipment for brain research.
Oh.
So and he's been there 30 years. And I asked Mark, what's good for the brain? What's good for the brain? And he said, reading. Reading's really good for the brain. And so I took mom to the library, and I figured out she was probably at a kindergarten level. She was mad at me for checking out kindergarten books. And I said, you'll get better and better. Don't worry about it. She said she was embarrassed. And I said, you've got bigger fish to fry than, and I literally said that in the library. I said, you've got bigger fish to fry than to be embarrassed right now. And she was like shocked, but she appreciated it. And we just started getting her books and books and books. And I made her talk all the time. I would call her. I would tell my brother to call her. I would encourage family members to go visit her and just have her talk and work on that. And So we kind of like made shift this therapy for her. And I'm not blaming anyone. I just don't think that the resources were in her town. I don't think that her, GP in the town really knew how to handle it either. I think he was just as shocked because I went to a couple of doctor's appointments with her to see him, and he was struggling as well.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot's changed in these, years, 11 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's you mentioned that you went to the doctor with your mom. My mom went to all my doctor's appointments with me, and it was interesting to hear. Sometimes my sister would come too. It's a family party in the doctor's office. But sometimes all three of us would hear something different.
absolutely.
And so it was really important that we're all there to have different perspectives and to take notes.
Yes.
And then to go back and think, okay, is that what we feel is best for us in this circumstance? And I say us because it was like a team effort. It was, you were there with your mom. So important.
Yes. And Ron went to several of her appointments. We all three went, again, because yeah, you're right. Everybody hears something different. And Ron and I were her main caregiver. So yeah, we were highly involved.
Mm. And you mentioned that when you said you have bigger fish to fry, embarrassment is a huge part of recovery. And it's a mental and emotional struggle. And did you talk more about embarrassment with your mom? Did you have further conversations?
I sure did. And I actually had conversations separately with my daughter because my daughter's 15 and everything, mom is embarrassing. Imagine stroke survivor grandma who can't speak being embarrassing. And I just said, you know what? There's lots of people out there who are going through different things. We're going through this. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. And showing someone love and compassion and being gentle is never embarrassing. Mm-hmm. And I told my mom, getting better isn't embarrassing because at first she fought me to go to the Y. But I knew he needed physical activity. I knew she needed to be around others. She needs social activity. And I couldn't be the end all to all her activities. And so I knew that. And mom was social before. I wanted to keep her social. And so I just said, everyone's going through something embarrassing. Everyone is. You just can't see it. Mm-hmm. And you're just going to have to get over yourself. This ego has to be put aside and you just have to get better. And I think because I wasn't embarrassed, she wasn't embarrassed. Because I wasn't embarrassed, my daughter wasn't embarrassed. And that was just, there was nothing to be embarrassed about. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how we move forward that way, is just saying, this is life.
Yeah. Did she ever express that? She ever express anything like that to you?
Well, sometimes she would try to communicate. I remember I took her into a shop one day and she was trying to communicate with the cashier, and I went over to communicate for mom and help be her advocate. And the cashier shoved me aside basically and said, I got this. I can understand her good enough. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. And I walked away. Well, it took 45 minutes to get mom's point across. And then the cashier was like, oh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have been thinking I could take this on. And so a lot of times mom would be like, that, would say something to the effect of, that would have been quicker if you had done it. And I'd be like, yeah, but you did it. So, what's 45 minutes? So we just really worked on her communicating, and it helped. It really did help. She did improve.
I love that. I love it. And it's hard to know when to help and when to let the stroke warriors try to work through it.
Yes.
trying to work through the conversation, because if you ultimately get it, awesome. It's it's a win. And then sometimes it just gets so frustrating that it's just too hard. And yeah. So, you noted that immediately after the stroke, I'm shifting gears here, your mom was physically, mentally, and emotionally broken. I got choked up at that point. Can you tell us how that evolved as she found her new normal?
Sure. Well, the one thing about mom was she was never physically broken in any way. No physical disabilities. By looking at her, you couldn't tell she had a stroke, and she was strong. She could pick me up and throw me across the room, kind of thing. She's a big woman, very strong. Physically, she was fine. It was her speech, and it was her, she was emotionally more charged. She would cry every day. And sometimes she would call me at work, and I worked full time at the University of Oregon. And I remember this one time she called me crying, and she was upset about something. I was about to go into a big meeting, and I said, okay, I want you to go pop your popcorn and go get your Star Trek and put that on. And when Star Trek's over, it'll be my lunchtime and we can talk, but I can't talk right now. And again, she was over an hour away from me, and someone was standing in my door to my office, and I hung up the phone. I looked over, and they said, oh, is your daughter having a rough day? I said, no, my daughter's 16. I go, that was my mama. And they were like, wow, like you got a lot on your plate. I'm like, yeah. And they said, sounds like she's upset. And I said, yeah, I can deal with it later. But I always had this way of kind of like setting up for her to kind of take on some of her own emotional responses. Sometimes I couldn't handle it for her. So sometimes it was just about giving her space. And usually I remember that phone call later, she was just upset about something. She had messed up on her checkbook, and she was upset at herself. And I remember telling her, I can fix that. So a lot of times I just handle things just really in a pragmatic way, which helped me stay focused on all the things I had to do.
Mm-hmm. And when you say you sometimes gave her space, what did that look like from her point of view?
Doing something for herself, taking care of herself. Yeah, and she could do it. I was like, yeah, you can do that. You can take care of yourself. You may not be able to balance your checkbook, but you can pop some popcorn.
Good call,
yeah.
Give little wins, little things that we can do.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And then shifting, humor. Thank you for noting the moments of humor. A lot of times things get embarrassing and heavy and frustrating. And there's a fine line with humor. Emotions are high, and we all have a different relationship with stroke. We have a different viewpoint. But you and your family were able to find connection through humor. Can you speak on that piece for us?
Sure. Well, I think everyone in my family has a really good sense of humor. We're not the kind of people, if we see somebody fall down, to laugh at them. Like, that's not funny to us. But somebody maybe dropping a meatball down the front of their shirt, at a fancy restaurant, that might be hilarious, and I'm probably going to be the person that does that. So for the humor, it was more about things are sad, but here's some moments, some gemstones that we can laugh about. And things are funny. Life is funny. Life can be sad and funny at the same time. Life can be frustrating and confusing and awesome all at the same time. So I think that's what we kind of took from being with Mom. And, I'm really thankful that Mark and Monet hung out with us so much. I mean, getting a 15, 16, 17-year-old to hang out with you anyway is tough. So I have really beautiful memories of me and Mom and Monet and Mark just being a family. And it was really beautiful.
Mm. Thank you. I'm so sorry for the loss of your mom. And I'm really thankful for the way that you described that moment. My mom calls the time after my grandpa's stroke and before his passing bonus time. She was his caregiver and was able to spend valuable, tough, but valuable time with him the last years of his life. So tell me about how your intentional bonus time informs the way you remember your mom. You knew her for many years before the stroke, but then you also had these intense years between the stroke and her passing.
Yeah, the 2.5 years that we had mom after her stroke really are kind of the cherished moments for me. My mom and I were very different women. We saw the world in very different ways. And my life went in a very different direction than hers. I decided to go to college. I've been married to only one man. I have one kid. These are things that really kind of mom found kind of boring. And so there was some gaps in our relationship that was healed because of these 2.5 years. Mom seemed to enjoy my company. I enjoyed mom's company. Mom had less, she was just really more present actually after her stroke. She wanted to be doing the things that we were doing. And I have a pretty calm life. And Monet and I were talking the other day, and Grandma, she said, seemed to really enjoy the calmness of our life after her stroke. And that was really good for her. So I think these things, these activities, this life that we lived in those 2.5 years really healed some of our problems before her stroke. So, I mean, her stroke was terrible. I'm not saying it, yay, stroke, but I am saying is that we took it and God made it good. God said, this is really a bummer, but here, take it and make it good. And he did.
Hmm. Okay. Looking back on the first, 24 hours, maybe even the first month after your mom's stroke, and then seeing now, what do you wish you could have told yourself right at the beginning?
You got this. I really was insecure the first. And I said I was a natural caregiver. I'm really a natural mom. I'm a really good mom. I'm not sure I'm a natural caregiver. I just didn't know the word to be like, I'm a really good mom. And so I really wish I would have told myself, or I could have told myself, hey, you're a really good mom. You got this. Like, you're going to be a really good caregiver. You're going to be a really good daughter. You're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get frustrated. But when you look back, you're going to be okay.
Mm. Oh, thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for walking us down that path. I know that on a daily basis you work with families and with stroke warriors, and to talk about your own journey is probably different than your daily life. So thanks for opening up to us and for taking the time to create the talk for us today. As we close, I offer gratitude. Gratitude for your words shared. I'm thankful for the ways that life brings us challenges, but also the strength and the courage and the patience and the humor that come into play as well. In this time, let's call to mind some person in our life but has been a grounded sense of inspiration. Someone who's overcome great struggles and now serves as a beaming light. Today, we offer gratitude for the many faces of love.
Thank you for devoting time and space to listen to Part 2, Victoria Moran's interview. For the full story, please listen to Part 1, Victoria Moran's story, on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teaching, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. In this episode of Beyond Stillness, guest Victoria Moran from RiverBend Stroke Program at PeaceHealth Medical Center shared her story as a mother, daughter, and caregiver. She offered insight on the many ways love shows up throughout the recovery process. If you enjoyed this moment of pause for storytelling and reflection, please like, share, or subscribe to Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke podcast. Again, thanks for listening. And remember, as part of the stroke community, you are more than supportive. You are inspirational.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org. Another way to support is to like, share, or subscribe to our weekly show. Again, thank you for devoting time and space for this week's episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke.